Hey, game changers. I wanted to dive into a lesson today with you. And I tell you, I have been thinking I was going to do this for longer than I want to admit right now. And as it would have it, trained this morning, went out, took the dog for a couple loops. And as I did, I pulled up an old Andy Frisella podcast where he was talking about waiting on the right conditions. And I know many of you, especially the people that I train and work with, know that I'm constantly on that. And guess what? I found myself in the same thing. Literally, I'm in a loop around this green belt, my neighborhood, and I'm thinking, yeah, I've been putting this off. You know why? Because I was just waiting on the right conditions. So here it is. The sun's coming up. There's a glare on the whiteboard. I threw on a cap. Trust me, you don't want to see my hair. But I'm like, you know what? I'm doing it, and I'm doing it right now, because that's one thing that I've trained myself to do, and the guys in Game Changer know that we train on all the time, is doing things so regularly, so consistently, that you build those disciplines and those habits. But this is not new. You've heard that before. But I want to talk today about vision. Now, this isn't vision like vision casting in the sense. There's plenty of people that could train you on that. I could even train you some on that, but this isn't it. But there's really three things. So I want to detail three things that you have to get movement in your life and in your business every single quarter. Now, as you go, sometimes that seems easier than others, but let me just break this down. So when we start with this, I always look at it this way, and I'm hoping that you can see this board right now with my back turned. Okay, yeah, you can see it, glare and all, but you're gonna, you know what? It's not perfect conditions, you can work with it. Right here, I'm gonna label this as A, B, and C. Don't worry about this right up here. This was unrelated. That's for another day. But so in this, you're here. So this is where you are. And just imagine this is where you are. So don't get lost in the A, B, or C. You may say, hey, Buffington, come on, I'm a D, I'm a E, I'm a Z player, I'm a whatever. Don't get lost in that. This is not about the type of player you are. It's just about where you are in life. From this place, right, the vision that this person has. So the first thing you gotta have is vision, right? But that's all you can see. From this place, you can only see this far. You cannot see over the hill to B, whatever B is. B is the next place that you're going, kind of the next target that you're after, but you can't see it. So what do you have to do? You have to work to go up this hill. This is where the second thing comes in. You have to do work, okay? And if you don't want to do work, go ahead and click this video off right now, because you're wasting your time. I mean, that's just the truth. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're in chiropractic. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter if you were somebody that staying at home taking care of his kids. There is work involved. So I'm thankful for my farming background that I learned that early on. Like, there's always work to do. So, but the key is what kind of work, and is it meaningful work? Because a lot of people stay busy and aren't productive. And I've run that game before too. So right here, you're climbing this. This is where the work exists, right here in this zone. But you have to get up here. Now, when this guy actually, and gal, gets here, okay, guess what? Now, I'm drawing this where it's not perfectly to scale, of course, but then you can actually see to the next hill. You can actually see to the next thing. I can see to B from that place. Now, if I had this drawn to scale, I wouldn't be able to see yet, the letter C. I couldn't get there because you can't see what you can't see. I use this all the time in practice, and many of you that have been around all know if your target, if your desire is to see a couple hundred people a week and take care of them, when you're only seeing 50 people a week, that seems almost insurmountable. Like, you can't even see it being done. When you're seeing 100, then you may think of 200 or 250. If your desire is to help more people and see a volume of people, depending on your practice setup, you have to get to that next layer before you can even see it. You hear people talk about it. What does it take to see 500 people? What does it take to see 700 people? What does it take to see 1,000 people? But it's really hard to get your mind around it. You know why? Because your eyes haven't ever seen it. Now, sometimes you can go visit those practices, you can see people do it, and it helps, but there's still this internal game where you've got to see it to believe it, but then you actually have to believe it to see it, if that makes sense. So, from this place, but again, remember, this takes work. This takes work to get here. Now, what people fail to realize, and this is what I want to point out to you, is that once you get here and you see B and you're excited, and you're pumped, and you're like, all right, my vision, I got my vision, I'm doing the work. And then you're like, wait a second, what is the third piece of this is actually have clear targets. And again, I could teach for days on all these things, but the three things I want to focus on today is having vision, doing the work, okay, that's required, and a clear target. And that's one of the things that, we were, I think, elite at the Game Changer events because of the process that we take people through. And it's not just a goal, it's just a number. You're like, pick a rabbit out of the hat and go, this is what I want to do for the next quarter. Oh yeah, this is what I want to do in the next year. That's a failed strategy for a lot of different reasons. And one is because it's just kind of a whim. It's borderline New Year's resolution. It's like, I'm going to do this. You haven't put any numbers to it. You haven't put any context to it. You don't really have the vision that it takes, or you're just using someone's vision temporarily, which is okay temporarily, but ultimately it's got to be your vision and your desires that drive it, or the why won't be big enough to get you there. And then you actually have to get strategic, right? And that's where if you set a poor target, the strategy will never mesh up with you, and it won't really get you where you want to go. But again, looking at this, you're looking at B. Now, from this place, everybody forgets this part. I should come up here, see if this red marker works. I forget this part. But guess what? Because to go uphill B, you have to go down the other side of A. Now, what does down mean? I'm not telling you that the bottom drops out. I'm not telling you that things, go away. But if you ride up a hill on a bicycle, you're going to coast down the other side. But coasting, guess what happens? Sometimes when you're coasting and you're not in the pedals, you get wobbly. You're probably more likely to wreck when you're coasting on a bike than when you're pedaling hard. This is true. And so I just want to call out an awareness. If nothing else today, I hope you just get an awareness that if you're in one of these seasons in your life, one of these seasons in your business, your practice, where things are just feeling off, like you're feeling out of balance, and you're thinking, man, we just hit all these records, we just helped all these people, we just did all these things, this should be great. I got my mind over here on B, what is this? Well, guess what? You're going down the hill. You're just going down the hill. And it's recalibrating, it's figuring some things out, it's streamlining, it's eliminating, it's delegating, it's all those things that are required in business that are going on, but it feels wobbly. Now, you'll get to the bottom of the hill and at that point you could feel defeated, you could feel tired. So you know what? You're gonna have to go back right over here and just recognize, if you want to climb this hill, if you want to get to B, you're gonna have to do the work. And guess what? This hill is bigger than this hill. It's gonna require more work. Now, people get lost in that and go, why would I wanna do more work? What I'm saying is it's not always the amount of work, right? It's the quality of the work, but it's still more. So your capacity has to step up. Again, that's a whole nother conversation, something I could teach on for hours, but your capacity has to reach up. It's why practices and people in chiropractic specifically, of course, that's what I've done. So that's been my career, bang their head against the wall. They go up, they hit a number, they hit something that they can do, they hit a level with their team, and then boom, they fall back. But here's what can occur. They may not be on this side of the hill. They're literally just like they stopped pedaling and they rolled backwards down the same hill. You don't want to do that. Make sure you pedal hard enough to get on over the hump. I remember as a kid, who had a lot of people had 10 speeds. Are 10 speeds even a thing anymore? But I had a 12 speed. I thought it was special. So I had this 12 speed. And I remember, out in the hilly country, how hard I'd have to pedal on a downshift I was literally about stopped when I got to the top of the hill. And if I could ever just turn the crank a few more times, break over the crest, and then it was on. Then guess what? I was hanging on for dear life, and thank goodness that my parents never saw the speed I was carrying down those hills because it was pretty wild and reckless. But I hung on, and guess what? When I got to the bottom of the hill, I kind of felt this like, oh, that was awesome. This was great. I'm excited about going up the next one until the pedaling begins to get really heavy again. And you just got to know that's coming. So, and if you don't have clear targets, and I could tie these things together, and I'm just going to allude to it here. Anybody that's worked with me for any period of time knows that I talk about this at every single event ever. And I got to believe that I will ever, because it's that important. We're always setting really clear targets on where we're going in the next quarter of life and business. And that's how it plays in. And it's from here where you start, and you're coming all the way over here to what you're after. I'll draw it all the way up here like this. Like this is the target, okay? And if you don't know that target, or you're not real with where you are now, all of this in the middle, it's just a hamster wheel. It's just a hamster wheel of convincing yourself that you're actually getting somewhere. It's like pedaling up the hill and rolling back down. Pedaling up the hill, rolling back down. Pedaling up the hill, maybe you crest over it, and then you get stuck down here in this trough. And you spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, a lot of effort, maybe even a lot of money in that area. It will cost you a lot of money. So the three things that I really wanted to bring to your attention today that you gotta have, in my opinion, that you gotta have to move yourself and your life forward. And that's the target. I put it in the other word, the vision, right? Being able to see and recognizing that you cannot see what you cannot see from your current vantage point. So you have to go to higher ground. The only way you get to higher ground is by doing the work. The work is the consistent piece that has to be there. But specific work designed to get you to a target with the vision that you have inside of you of what you want in your life and business. Not what I want for you, because what I want for you may help you for a little while, but it won't help you forever. And trust me, I'm thankful for a lot of mentors that I would hook on to their vision. I would hook on, because I couldn't even come up with them on my own. I didn't know, or that was a story, right? I love that phrase, I don't know. Like, how can you sell yourself short? Of course you know, you just gotta ask better questions. So in that site, I borrowed the vision, and it helped me to set some goals. I wouldn't even call them targets. It did allow me to do some very specific work, and it moved me in the direction. So it got me over some hills and helped me see other things. But eventually where it started to get wobbly for me is when it wasn't what I wanted. And that could be physically, could be emotionally, could be spiritually, could be relationally. It wasn't congruent with me. So if it's not congruent with me, the business will never go farther. So if you find yourself and you're banging your head on the wall and you've been riding up and down this hill on this side for a long, long time, you gotta check, what are you really after? Are you after what you want, or are you after what someone else wants? And this is where the target part comes in, because there is an art and a science to setting clear targets designed by you, for you, with guidance, with support to help get you there. Because if you ever put someone else's target, you can have all the vision and do all the work, but if it's really their target, it won't work. If you have no vision, you borrow it, you're unwilling to do the work, and you have a clear target, won't work. Like you take any one of these three things out and it falls apart. You make it temporary lift, but it's just kind of a shell game. And that's where I think a lot of people get frustrated. Burnout starts to creep in, and you just don't, feel good about yourself, and you lose a lot of confidence, you lose a lot of clarity, you lose a lot of certainty. And those three things married up with these three things, and they're intertwined, trust me, make all the difference in the world. Hey, I hope this helped. And if you don't have these things set up, ask yourself, what is your vision? You know, people will tell you 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. Think about your vision. Then look back from a target perspective. When I draw this out and we break this down, we always like just a quarter, okay? Think about how many things change in a quarter of your life in, let's call it 12 weeks. Let's call it 4 months, 3 months. that's bad math. 3 months. How much changes? So if you set so many targets out there, if you set all these quarters, well, man, there's gonna be too many variables. So we look out there at least a year. We look at that, we back it back down. We look at, all right, this is what I'm gonna attack in this quarter of time. That's the target. And then guess what? Then the strategic work that you do every single day, every single week, every single month, that plays in and will actually get you there. So sometimes your head's down and you're just churning, you're doing the work, you can't see. Then you crest the hill, you get bigger vision. Then guess what? You come in and strategically set a target. This is how it works. I hope that you're kind of putting this together. I could go on and on. Hope it's helpful for you. Every day is training day, right here, and yeah, right here too.